Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Vishnu Paramahansa Bhavarajikacharya, also does CC with AC, Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Amacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Paramsakaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Radha Krishna, Gopal Gopida Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Jamuna Tulasi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimadi Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tadane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 3, Verse 11. Satvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipaschata namak kaivalya nataya Nirvana Sukha Samvide Satvena Pratilabhyaya Naishkarmyena Vipaschata Nama Kaivalya Nataya Nirvana Sukha Samvide. Vaishnavis. Sattvena, by pure devotional service, pratilabhyaya, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was achieved by such devotional activities, naishkarmyena, by transcendental activities, vipaschata, by persons who are sufficiently learned. Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. Kaivalya nataya. Unto the Master of the Transcendental World. Nirvana. For one completely freed from material activities. Sukha, of happiness. Samvide, who is the bestower? Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of bhakti yoga. He is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. Therefore, I offer my respect unto him. Purport: as stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood only by devotional service. Bhakti mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvataha. If one wants to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth, one must take to the activities of devotional service. These activities are called sattva or shuddha sattva. In the material world, activities of goodness, which are symptomatic of pure Brahmana, are appreciated. But the activities of devotional service are Suddha Sattva. In other words, they're on the transcendental platform. Only by devotional service can one understand the Supreme. Devotional service is called Naishkarmya. Mere negation of material activities will not endure. Naishkarmyam api achuta bhava varjatam. Unless one performs activities with reference to Krishna consciousness, cessation of material activities will not be helpful. In hopes of achieving Naishkarmya, freedom from material action, many highly elevated sannyasis stopped their activities, yet they failed and returned to the material platform to act as materialistic persons. But once one is engaged in the spiritual activities of bhakti yoga, one does not fall down. Our Krishna consciousness movement is therefore an attempt to engage everyone always in spiritual activity, by which one becomes transcendental to material actions. The spiritual activities of bhakti marga, shravanam, kirtanam, vishnu, smaranam, pada, sevanam, lead one to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as stated here, Satveni pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipaschata, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. The Gopal Tapani Upanishad says, Bhaktir asya bhajanam tad iha mutra upadi nairasyena eva asmushmin manasa kalpanam etad eva cha naishkarmyam. This is a definition of naishkarmya. One acts in naishkarmya when he fully engages in Krishna conscious activities without material desires to enjoy, either here or in the upper planetary systems, in the present life or in a future life. Iha amutra. Abhilashita shunyam. When one is freed from all contamination and he acts in devotional service under the direction of a spiritual master, one is on the platform of Naishkarma. By such transcendental devotional service, the Lord is served. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. He is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. Therefore, I offer my respect unto him. So, this verse is one of a series of verses recited by Gajendra in praise of the Supreme Lord, who came and rescued Gajendra personally because of his calling out to him. So it is obviously a prayer to the Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, the unique feature of this is that, if you notice, even in the previous verses, he uses many words which can be taken impersonally. So we have Brahman mentioned in the previous verse. We have previous verse Atma Pradipa, which again is rather impersonal. And here we get Kaivalya Natha, Nirvana. And of course, even in the next verses again, we find things like this: Agana, Agana, another Nirvishesha, Samya, very impersonal. Of course, if we look, we see also simultaneously, he's also reciting many words which indicate a very personal aspect of the Lord. So we have the Lord with Ananta Shakti. He is Paresha, Supreme Lord. He has Ascharya Karma, very astonishing activities. He has a big form, Ura Rupa. But then it says he's Arupa. He's also without form. So, in other words, we're getting a whole list of names of the Supreme Lord when he addresses the Lord. Some are personal and some are impersonal. So this is a little confusing for some people. For a person who is accustomed to Achinta Beta Beta Tattva and the Achinta Shakti of the Lord, is kind of common sense for us that the Lord can be both. He can be impersonal and personal. And this is also one of the basic fundamental principles of the Bhagavatam. The Lord is completely impersonal as Brahman, and that's the spiritual aspect of the Lord. He is Paramatma, the creator of the world, slightly personal, and he is Bhagavan, very personal. And then even as Bhagavan, the Lord has not one form, but many forms. And those many forms, they vary also from, let's say, very majestic forms like Vishnu, up to the very personal forms like Krishna, and where the devotees don't even see Krishna as Supreme Lord. So we get a very wide variety of realizations of the Lord. And all of these are accepted as the Lord. Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, with all of their aspects. They're all respected as aspects of the Supreme Lord. This is one unique feature of the Bhagavatam and the Gaudiya philosophy, that we can accept all these things. Some Vaishnavas will completely reject the Brahman aspect of the Lord. Completely. It doesn't exist. It's impossible to have a Brahman aspect. So Madhvas and Ramanuja people, they reject the Brahman completely. The Lord is only the personal aspect. That's it, finished. We say he is Brahman, he is Parama, he is Bhagavan. He has three aspects. And of course, and there's others who say there's no personal aspect at all, it's only impersonal. And this is the impersonalists, the Mayavadis, and others. In other words, we are a combination of the extremes. We accept both positions, the extreme impersonal and the extremely personal. So then people will say, well, that's ridiculous. How can you accept opposites? It's one or the other. But this is, we say, as I said, one of the principles of Bhagavan. He has aspects impersonal but personal because he has Achintya Shakti. So he can manifest both aspects. And what looks impossible for us, from our logical, material point of view, is not impossible for the Supreme Lord at all. So he can be simultaneously in two contradictory states of impersonal and personal. Of course, we find that the Lord Krishna very cleverly is able to accommodate opposites within him very nicely. As we see, for instance, when Krishna ate the dirt, and then Mother Yasoda said, well, show me if you ate dirt or not. And he says, no, I didn't eat any dirt. And then Mother Yasoda said, open your mouth, because I want to see, because I know you lie sometimes. So then Krishna was stuck. He had to open his mouth. And then, of course, he didn't have to really do anything. He doesn't have to use his intelligence. He's so intelligent that he doesn't even have to use his intelligence. His Shaktis automatically act on his behalf. So for Krishna, his Aishvarya Shakti acted. And when he opened his mouth, Yasoda did not see any dirt. She saw the whole universe. Not one speck of dirt, but everything in the universe was inside of Krishna, which was astonishing. Because not only the universe was there, we see everything in the universe, all the living entities were there, and all the elements were there, and all the lokas were there, from Satyaloka to Patalaloka, and all the demons and the devotees and the devas and all the animals and the plants and the mountains and the rivers and Bhumandala, everything was there. So that was one astonishing thing. Everything is inside Krishna. How is it possible? And then she noticed, well, Krishna's on my lap, and then the universe is in my lap also inside Krishna. That's rather strange. And then she looked outside, and the universe was outside, not inside. So how could the universe be outside Krishna and inside Krishna simultaneously? Impossible from a normal point of view, but this was possible for Krishna. He could manifest this to Yasoda, and she saw this. And this became more confusing for her. So, in this way, Krishna demonstrated how he is contrary states. He is inside and outside. He is everything. As it said in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is within everything, and he's outside of everything. Everything's in the Lord. Everything's within him, and he's in everything. So he's inside and he's outside. So, these are contrary states. So the Lord can do this. That's his inconceivable or Achintya Shakti. Therefore, when we find these contrary terms mentioned here for a devotee used to the Bhagavatam, it's natural. It's not a problem. So we can take Kavalyanath or Nirvana Sukha Samvide, and we can accept these aspects of Bhagavan, that he can have an impersonal aspect as well. But other people cannot accept this. It's very difficult for them to understand. So some people will reject these. There's no Kaivalya at all. There's no nirvana, nothing like that. And that some Vaishnavas will take that position. The others will say there's nothing personal at all. It's all impersonal, ultimately. And that's, of course, the Mayavadis. Shankara's followers will take that position. So we get... And they'll take the whole Bhagavatam and read it in that way. Either all personal or all impersonal. Which is astonishing. How can it be so? Okay? So that is why we also need acharyas to help us understand the meaning of everything. If we don't do that, we can get stuck. And we can get the opposite meaning.
This may also look a little contradictory because the whole import of the Bhagavatam was to make a work for the people of Kali Yuga who are very unintelligent, dull-minded people. So make something very easy for them to understand and underline the fact that the object of worship for everybody in Kali Yuga is Krishna. That's the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam mentioned in the first canto by Narada Muni to Veda Vyas. You write a work so that everyone understands that worship only Krishna, not Devatas, not Shiva or Brahma or Durga Devi or even other forms of Vishnu. Just worship Krishna. That was his instruction. And so this is what Vyasadeva did, and Sukadeva repeated. And he glorifies Krishna. But then we see all these, it's not just about Krishna, it's not just 10th canto, it's not just Rasalila. We've got all these other statements in other cantos, and some of them look very impersonal. And here we get, Kaivalya and Nirvana and Nirvishesha and Arupa, and all these things I mentioned. And if you look in the 3rd canto, there's a whole section by Kapila Dev, all on impersonalism. A whole 2 chapters dedicated to Nirvana. And if you look in the 11th canto, then Krishna speaks a whole chapter of impersonalism again to Uddhava. And of course, when the impersonalists read this, they're very thrilled. Yes, this is the essence of Bhagavatam. We'll listen to Kapila and Krishna speak to Uddhava. Yeah, and this is the meaning. So they say, yes, Krishna is there, and Bhagavan is there, and Paramatma is there, all these there. But this is all secondary. Ultimately, it's all sattva-gun manifestation. As we see here, it mentions the word sattva, so they'll say sattva means sattva-gun, material sattva-gun, and even the Lord is sattva-gun. So therefore, we go beyond sattva-gun, and we end up finally with impersonal Brahman, nirguna. So, therefore, all of the descriptions of avatars and forms of the Lord, etc., are ornaments, more or less. And even the 10th canto is only an ornament to stimulate people to get to a higher level. And finally, we get to Brahman. And that's the whole conclusion of Bhagavatam. And to confirm that, then they'll go to the 12th canto. This is the conclusion of Bhagavatam, where Sukadeva concludes his message to Parikshit. And he concludes by saying that all of this ultimately indicates that we should merge in Brahman. This is the statement of Sukadeva to Parikshit. And therefore, the impersonalists will be very, very happy. See, that's the conclusion. Finally, after everything, 10th canto and all that, then we get to 11th canto, more impersonal, then finally 12th canto, yes. Direct statement of Sukadeva, merge in Brahman. Finally. That's the conclusion of Bhagavatam, impersonalism, to confirm Shankar's interpretation of Upanishads and Brahma Sutras, etc. So, if one so desires, one can take an impersonal conclusion to Bhagavatam. And in spite of the fact that the whole intention of Vyasadeva was to write a work glorifying Krishna and telling everybody to worship Krishna. So, how is it possible? Was he a faulty author? That he wrote words that can so be misinterpreted that we get opposite meaning? And actually, it's intentional. So Krishna also, in speaking to Uddhava in the 11th canto, he says this, that the sages speak parokshavad, or indirect meaning. They don't speak directly all the time. And the sages are very fond of doing this. They hide the meaning. And then Krishna says, I like that also. I prefer this method also, to hide things. So we'll find the Upanishads speak like this, and that's why it's difficult to interpret the Upanishads. We get Shankaracharya with one meaning, and we have the Vaishnavas with a completely opposite meaning of the same text. One completely impersonal, one personal, because we can interpret the words either way. Meaning is hidden. So, the same goes for the Bhagavatam. Certain aspects are quite clear if we're intelligent, but at the same time, it gives opportunity to interpret according to your whim and come up with an opposite conclusion if you have that strong desire. Because the author, Vyasadeva, is writing with some indirect meaning to hide things from unqualified people. So the Vishnu Chakravarti quotes from one Bhagavatam verse to illustrate that, or to show that the Bhagavatam is like Mohini avatar. So Mohini avatar is a very special avatar of the Lord, who manifested when the demons stole the nectar, the amrita, after the demons and devotees made a pact that they would churn the milk ocean and get the nectar and share it. Then the demons stole the nectar. So the devatas were very morose. And then the Lord appeared and said, "Do not worry, I will get you the nectar." Yeah? So he took a form which was rather extraordinary. He took the form of a woman. Usually he takes forms like Nrsimhadev or Vamana or Varaha or Parsuram or whatever like that. So he took a woman form, a very beautiful woman form, female form. Very attractive. And her name is Mohini, which means most bewildering. Yeah? So, as Mohini, he approached the demons. The demons were arguing over the nectar. Who's going to drink the nectar? For who can hold the pot? Who can drink the nectar? Like this. And every demon would say, "I want it." And I said, "I want it." Like this. So they're having a big argument. Who can take the nectar? And of course, the nectar also was bewildering because it's not real nectar and it's not immortal. It's not amrita in the true sense of the term. It only helps you recover from battle once you get wounded. And then you can get strength again, that's all. So it's like a rejuvenating medicine or something like that. So it doesn't make you immortal by any means. So, and they were fighting over this. I'm the first to drink it, whatever. But when they saw Mohini, then they got distracted. That was the potency of Mohini. They became attracted to Mohini. And Mohini approached, and they're wondering, who is this wonderful, beautiful woman? What are we going to do? So then Mohini spoke. And then Mohini praised them. And they were all flattered. And then Mohini says, "Give me the nectar." And then the demons said, "Yes, we will give you the nectar." Because they were bewildered. And they thought, yes, she likes us so much that we'll do anything for her. And if we give her the nectar, she'll give it back to us. So they gave her the nectar. So without any fight, they gave the nectar to Mohini, and then Mohini gave the nectar to the devatas, and the demons lost. So without any fight, very cleverly, the Lord, through his bewildering power, he got the nectar. He took it from the demons and gave it to the devotees. So the Bhagavatam is like Mohini. It is also got nectar in it. So the nectar, of course, is the appreciation and pastimes of Krishna and his devotees, which is particularly in the 10th canto, but in other sections we have the avatars of the Lord, and that's also nectar sweet because it illustrates the personal relationship between the Lord and his devotees. And we see the wonderful qualities of the Lord manifested through these pastimes. So, there is a lot of nectar in the Bhagavatam. But Vasudeva has written the work in such a way that unqualified people, like impersonalists and materialists, cannot appreciate it. They don't deserve the nectar. Just like the demons don't deserve the nectar because they misuse it. They become powerful, and then they afflict the devatas, they destroy dharma, they persecute the devotees. So, not good. They misuse whatever they get. So, therefore, the real nectar is not meant for unqualified people. The real knowledge is not meant for unqualified people, so parts of the Bhagavatam are not meant for the non-devotees, etc. And why? How is it done? By giving them a different meaning. So the meaning is hidden, and they get another meaning. At the same time, the nectar of the Bhagavatam is available for the devotees very freely. But one has to be qualified. A devotee means one is qualified. Devotee means one accepts the existence of that Supreme Lord with his wonderful qualities and activities. We appreciate the Lord. So that is the basis for getting access to the nectar of the Bhagavatam. However, we need a little bit of a method of getting into the Bhagavatam. So that is, we accept the meanings of the acharyas, the commentaries of the acharyas. If we get the meaning through them, then we can get the right understanding and we can appreciate it properly. Other people, they don't accept the Lord, and obviously they're not going to accept the Vaishnava commentaries, then they have no access to the nectar. So we can say, on purpose, the Bhagavatam hides certain aspects from unqualified people, and it reveals, simultaneously, it reveals everything to the devotees. So that is why we'll find words which look impersonal. There's many impersonal statements, many impersonal words in the Bhagavatam, including this verse. This will attract the impersonalist. And then they'll think, oh yes, okay, the ultimate is impersonal. And they won't bother with the personal aspect and trying to understand it at all. So, in this way, the Bhagavatam hides the nectar from the demons and the materialists, and it gives it to the devotees. Of course, some aspects are even hidden from devotees, unless they're very eager devotees. So, generally, we can understand these terms here if we get the commentary and explanation. So, for instance, in this verse, we get words like Naishkarmya and Kaivalya and Nirvana. So, if we get the proper understanding of this, then we can accept them. That we understand that the Lord is the master of Brahman anyway, so therefore he can be the master of Kaivalya. There's no problem. Another meaning is Kaivalya actually means bhakti. So in the 5th canto, our acharyas often quote from the 5th canto where Kaivalya actually means bhakti. So when that word is used, sometimes they're going to say it means bhakti. It doesn't mean monism or impersonalism at all, like that. And here the word Naishkarmya, generally, literally, it means no action at all, or no karma, no karma kanda or no karma yoga even, which means jnana. We reject karma yoga and go to jnana. That can be one meaning. And of course, the jnanis, they give up activity, try to destroy all of their karma to get liberation. But here we find Prabhupada quotes in the purport from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, and there Naishkarmya means bhakti. It's an adjective to describe bhakti because bhakti is without material desires, without material activities, etc. So we also call it Naishkarmya. So therefore, it refers to the process of bhakti. The Gajendra offers his respects to the Lord, who is approached by devotees who perform bhakti. So it's not approaching liberation through the process of jnana, which you could take that interpretation also, but no, we interpret it this way. So, therefore, we need sometimes explanations. Some of these explanations, of course, come from reading more of the Bhagavatam and other devotional literatures. Then we see the context, how words are used. So here, the word Naishkarmya is used in a different way from the normal method, way, in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, and there it means bhakti. So we can take it from other scriptures, or even from the Bhagavatam. We can take the words. Kaivalya means merging in Brahman, but in 5th canto it means bhakti. Quite obviously it means bhakti there. So from the Bhagavatam itself, the use of words we can take and figure out the meaning sometimes like that, or sometimes from other scriptures, etc. And, of course, we are helped out because we get the commentaries of our acharyas to help out, and they make it easier for us to get those meanings. So this is one way in which we have to be careful when we study the Bhagavatam. We can't always take literal meanings. We have to see the meaning in its context of the whole Bhagavatam. Of course, this is one way in which our acharyas justify the meaning of Bhagavatam, as opposed to the impersonalists saying, ultimately Sukadeva says, merge in Brahman, so therefore that's the conclusion. The counter argument is, take the whole Bhagavatam and see the main purport and the import and the purpose of the Bhagavatam and see what it is, and everything should correspond to that. So that's a basic principle. We take a work and we see its main import. What's it trying to do? And then every statement should agree with that somehow or other. If it doesn't, I mean, the author is not thinking properly. He makes contradictory statements all over the place. It doesn't mean anything. So everything should ultimately have a unified conclusion. The whole goal, we're reaching a certain goal with a certain conclusion, not that we have all sorts of counter-conclusions everywhere. So if we look at the Bhagavatam, we understand this is so. The intention of Vedavyas was to ultimately glorify Krishna, not to tell everybody to merge in Brahman. It's directly stated in the first canto. And then we have so many statements in the first canto of Bhagavatam explaining the purpose of the Bhagavatam. And, of course, throughout the Bhagavatam, again, we'll find so many statements glorifying bhakti, and at the same time condemning impersonal liberation as being useless or insignificant, or having a drop of happiness, like a drop of water in the desert, etc. So many statements are there. So therefore, how can the ultimate conclusion be that we should merge in Brahman, which is, the final conclusion of Sukadeva? And we have to say no. So that's exactly what our acharyas say. The statement of Sukadeva at the end doesn't really mean that. You can take it like that if you're an impersonalist. But the devotees will understand this doesn't make sense, because Sukadeva is being glorifying Krishna as the highest form of Bhagavan, and Bhagavan Swayam. So how can the conclusion be merged in Brahman, which is repeatedly condemned as being insignificant throughout the Bhagavatam? Doesn't make sense. So therefore, another meaning. I have to take another meaning of the verse. So the explanation is ultimately this was not a serious statement by Sukadeva. He was testing Parikshit. And then Parikshit replies to him very angrily, this is not the conclusion. So in this way we cannot just take superficial interpretations of verses or words or whatever and come to some conclusion. We have to see the overall meaning. So that is one thing that the acharyas do also. They examine the whole work. What is the initial purpose of the work stated by the author? And this will be repeated at the end of the work. The conclusion. Just as in if you study writing or English language, you have to write a paragraph. So your introductory statement is your first line of your paragraph introduces the subject, and then the last line concludes, or if you're writing a whole essay or something. So you start with the introduction, in which you outline what you're going to do, and then you conclude again. The same thing at the end. So what is repeated at the beginning is repeated at the end. And so this indicates there's a correspondence between the beginning and end. So therefore everything in the middle should also correspond with that. And we have to give the meaning according to that. So we cannot blindly take statements here and there and come up with some conclusion. We have to very consistently look at everything and come to a conclusion that way. So, therefore, we have to read Bhagavatam with the proper understanding, and as I say, with the commentaries of the acharyas, then we come up with the proper meaning. This way, we get access to the nectar of the Bhagavatam. And if we don't do that, then we're cheated of the nectar, like the demons. We can't get the nectar. So if we don't accept the proper meanings through the acharyas, then we're deprived of that taste, or whatever like that. So this is one level. There's a higher level, again, in which things are hidden, even from the devotees, apparently. So we'll see, for instance, Sukadeva does not even mention the name of Radha in the Bhagavatam directly. There's one little word there that indicates Radha. So again, why he doesn't mention Radha's name? So one explanation is some things are hidden. Higher aspects of rasa are hidden. So therefore, the highest personalities in rasa are hidden also. So the main gopis are not mentioned by name even. Of course, also out of respect also. Convention is you don't mention names directly out of respect. So therefore, none of the names of Radha and the Astasakis and the main gopis are mentioned directly in the Bhagavatam, even though it's glorifying Krishna and ultimately it's glorifying Madhurya Rasa and Radha and Krishna and Rasalila, etc. Not mentioned at all. So not mentioned directly. So again, this is a parokshavad, indirect expression, to hide certain aspects, the highest things, from people who are not qualified. But then, if we look through our acharyas, they will give us a whole explanation there. Who's who, which gopi this is, which gopi this is Radha, this is Lalita, this is Vishaka, whatever, this is Chandravali, etc. And according to the descriptions of the different gopis and their different activities, their different personalities. But they don't mention, Sukadev does not mention directly those names at all. No, hidden again. But if we're devotees and we're serious and we go to our acharyas, then we can begin to understand the personalities involved in this and appreciate their interactions with Krishna. So in this way, hidden again. Other whole sections are spoken in coded language. So we see there's a message of Krishna to the gopis through Uddhava. And if we take it, the literal message, it does not make sense at all. Krishna says, meditate on Paramatma in your heart. Fine. What kind of consolation is that to the gopis? And ultimately, it can't be. The gopis, how can they be satisfied by becoming yogis? How can they become yogis? It's a ridiculous statement. But this is what Krishna seems to say to them on one level. So therefore, we got levels of meaning in that whole letter. That's the superficial meaning. And if the yogis and the impersonalists read that, they will be very happy. They say, look, Krishna's advising the highest devotees of Krishna to go beyond that and get to the practice of yoga and enter into Brahman or something like that. And they'll say, look, even Krishna's indicating this. But this is the superficial meaning. And if we look closely, it's contradictory to Krishna. Why would he do such a thing? Why would he lie to the gopis? Why would he torture them in this way by telling them to become yogis or whatever? It's contrary to the whole purport of Bhagavatam. So there must be another meaning. So therefore we do have another meaning. And through that meaning, Krishna actually does console the gopis by giving them an understanding that though this is one level of pastimes, in internal pastimes, you are associating with me. So we have two levels, the Prakat Lila and we go the Aprakat Lila. So simultaneously, you can have satisfaction in the Aprakat Lila, even though in this Prakat Lila, when manifested pastime, we appear to be separated. So we get another meaning there. And this is somewhat satisfying to the gopis. In this way, the idea here is that we have to look at the words very closely when we see words and sentences and whole sections of the Bhagavatam and understand them with the proper meaning according to the intention of the author, the intention of Bhagavatam. This way, we can begin to appreciate everything. So here we have Gajendra speaking, and as I said, if we're just normal, logical people, then we'll see it's a mixture of terms. Some are personal, some are impersonal, and some are very personal, some are Paramatma features, etc. like this, a whole mixture of everything. So from our point of view, yes, very normal, because we have Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, he's all three. So if we want to glorify the Lord, we can glorify him in all of his aspects. He is everything. And this is, we can say, one of the unique features of the Gaudiya philosophy. We don't condemn anybody. We kind of accept everybody. But at the same time, with qualification. Those that are interested in Brahman, they're on a lower level. And those who have Bhagavan are on a higher level. That's all. But there's all aspects of Bhagavan. So therefore, that we do have a wide variety within, let's say, the interpretations of the Vedas, from most personal to the most impersonal. And Shankar would be the most impersonal. And then we get others like, Kapila and whatever, Sankhya, which are also impersonal. And then we get the personal philosophy of the Vaishnavas through Vedanta. We get, all these extremes. So the Bhagavatam actually accepts these extremes. We don't throw them out and say they're completely wrong, but they're a lesser realization, that's all. It's one Bhagavan, Advaya Jnanam, but different realizations of the same Bhagavan. Why the Lord would do this? Why would he have so many facets? Because people have different desires and different expectations, so the Lord will appear differently. And that's why we have so many religions around the world, because God will appear differently to different people, because that's what they desire. If we examine religion around the world, in general, it is impersonal, ultimately. Islam, Christianity, Judaism is basically impersonal, ultimately. That God has no form. And of course, then he has a little activity, something like this, kind of stick it in there, but it's ultimately no form. So we can never conceive of a form or draw a form of God or have a murti of God. It's forbidden. And then we have Shankar, again, similar to that. Of course, Buddhism is more extreme still than that. And then we have the opposite. We have the form, not one form, many forms of God. Extremely different forms, not just human forms, inhuman forms, like I say, animal forms, fish form, and pig form, and whatever, horse form, and all sorts of colors also. We get black, we get white, we get yellow, we get red, we get green, we get blue, and all colors and all forms. So not one form of God, but many forms of God and many colors and many activities. Extremes are there. So we accept all those extremes, from the most impersonal to the most personal. But the difference is preference. If you want, you can take that, the impersonal, fine. You practice jnana or yoga, you can get the impersonal realization. Fine. And you can become peaceful. You can get liberation. And if you accept the personal form, why? So why is the personal form higher? Why do we say Bhagavan is higher than Brahman? Why? Ultimately because of bliss. If you realize Bhagavan, you get bliss. If you realize Brahman, you get absence of suffering. That's the difference. So absence of suffering actually is not bliss. It's only a negative thing. So that's what you get through liberation. Absence of karma, absence of suffering, absence of birth, absence of death, absence of everything except consciousness. So you're in a state of peace. No activity, no awareness of a particular object. That's all. And it can go on eternally like that. If you realize Bhagavan, you can also get no birth, no death, etc., be eternal, be peaceful in that sense. But through relationship with the Lord, you get rasa and you get bliss. We get an experience of affectionate relationship and affectionate exchange with the Supreme Lord. And that produces the bliss. So that's the difference. That's a choice we make, whether we want peace or we want bliss in the spiritual world. And to do that, then we choose the method. If we want the peace, we use jnana or yoga. And if we want ananda, then we choose the process of bhakti. But even bhakti, we have to be careful, because we have the impure bhakti and we have the pure bhakti. If you choose the impure bhakti, then we get less of the ananda. Yeah? If we choose the pure bhakti, we get ananda, pure ananda. But then, even ananda will have various degrees. So if we choose Krishna, we get more ananda. Because he is Akila Rasa Mritamurti. He is the very form of all spiritual rasas. 5 primary and 7 secondary rasas, and Krishna is the perfection of that. The other forms of the Lord do not manifest all of those perfectly in full. So therefore, the bliss in that sense is less. This is more with Krishna. So that is why the Bhagavatam is recommending you worship Krishna only, and then you get the highest bliss with Krishna. And even with Krishna then, we get various levels. We get bhava, we get prema, we get sneha, we get pranaya, we get man, we get raga, we get anuraga, and we get mahabhava. Various levels also. And the various rasas will take us to different levels. So we go from shanta to dasya to sakya to vatsalya, and they get more and more intense. And then vatsalya goes up to, I think, raga. And we get madhurya, which goes anuraga and mahabhava, most intense. So therefore the whole top is not just Krishna, but Krishna in madhurya rasa. So that is why Lord Chaitanya has come to give madhurya rasa to the people of Kali Yuga. That's his special mission. So he takes the mood of Radha and manifests himself. Krishna manifests himself with the mood of Radha in Kali Yuga to give madhurya prema to the people of Kali Yuga who are otherwise unqualified to get it. So therefore, we get not only Krishna, but we get the highest rasa of Krishna and the highest ananda through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's the special contribution of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give us that the highest rasa of Krishna and the highest ananda. So anyway, we have the variegated forms of the Lord, etc., from the most impersonal, with absence of suffering, all the way up to the highest bliss with Krishna and madhurya rasa. And it's up to the jiva what he wants to choose. But by association, we can influence the choice. So this is one of the main, let's say, ways in which we can distribute mercy to people. We give them opportunity for the highest bliss. Instead of giving the bliss of material happiness by distributing food and charity and whatever to them, we have spiritual life. And in spiritual life, we not just give spiritual life like yoga or Brahman or whatever, we also give the highest bliss, that is realization of Krishna. So we can influence people. By sadhu sangha, we can influence and we can change their preference from one thing to the other, from material to spiritual, from spiritual, general to impersonal to personal, and from personal to Krishna, through association. So if we have that bhakti for Krishna and we associate with other persons, then gradually they can pick up that mood and that feeling and appreciate, and they also can become attracted. So this is the preaching movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to spread the mercy of Krishna and Radha and Krishna to all the people of Kali Yuga through Nam Sankirtan, associating with devotees, persons, and making them into devotees, and then helping them develop to higher and higher levels. I think we're over time almost. Okay. Hare Krishna. Any question? Well, in one sense, we all use it in one sense because we don't preach to the faithless people. That's an indirect expression. So we may not express everything to everybody. So when you go to a person that you don't know, and maybe he's a demon or whatever, we're not going to say, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, surrender to Krishna, give everything to Krishna, you're in Maya. We can't say that. So we say, oh, how are you today? You're a nice person. We kind of encourage them in different ways. And indirectly, we get around to the fact that, okay, material life is there, but there's something higher than material life like this. And we may not even get to the Krishna thing. Just say, okay, there's something better than material life. Seek that out. And then once they get convinced, okay, yes, there's something higher, then we can go a little further. And finally, maybe we can get to the idea, okay, there's a Supreme Lord or a God, but some people may be allergic to the word God also, so we can't even mention God to some people in the beginning, So this way, we have to use parokshavad to some extent also.
What's
Well, the danger is if you get stuck in Parokshabhad, you never get to the revealing the higher truth, that's all. Yeah. If we get lost in it, we may get lost in it also. We get stuck there in the indirect part of it. So we may get stuck in the yoga process instead of going higher.
You mentioned about how nice Karmya and Kaivalya are different aspects of bhakti.
Yeah.
Yet you didn't mention about Nirvana, which is also another impersonal.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's similar. The nirvana, we can take it and it's completely impersonal, which it often is, which is it's a negative concept to wipe out material consciousness completely, to extinguish everything completely. And it is often used by the Buddhists, of course. We see nirvana's concept there is there, just negate everything. So we see it sometimes mentioned in the Bhagavatam also, and it usually has that negative connotation to it, destruction of materialism, etc. In terms of, and we'll see it in Bhagavad Gita also, from our point of view, yes, we do accept the destruction aspect. We destroy all karma, we destroy material identity, we destroy ahankara. We also get that, we do that. But this is not the goal of bhakti. This is the secondary goal of bhakti. This is the primary goal and method of the jnanis and yogis. Destroy false ego, destroy mental functions, destroy karma, then you get liberation, and then there's nothing. So that's their nirvana. The devotee, on the other hand, simply by doing bhakti, he accomplishes that also. No more ego, no more karma, no more subtle gross body, etc. All that's destroyed. So he gets liberation, but it's not his goal. So nirvana is a secondary aspect, like Brahman is a secondary aspect. So if we realize Bhagavan, everything which is in Brahman is also there. The jnani only gets to Brahman and doesn't get anything further. The devotee gets Bhagavan, and everything in Brahman and Paramam are also accomplished by the devotee.
Maharaj, you were saying in the class that there is so many ambiguous statements in the Bhagavatam that can be misinterpreted, even the conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bhagavatam comes as a result of Narada chastising Vyas for being indirect.
Yeah.
So
yes. So I said the reason for this is that one reason, of course, is hide things from the unqualified people. So therefore, even though it is more or less direct, still, for unqualified people, they shouldn't get access to the things. And another thing is that in that assembly, with Parikshit listening there, with all this whole assembly listening, there were all sorts of people there. So there were the Karmakandis and the Gyanakandis and whatever like this, and yogis, so many people there. So there's a little bit of everything for everybody. So catch their attention. And once they get their attention with those things, then they can maybe get into the other higher aspects also. So it's another, say, Parokshabhad. Glorify these systems in order to attract them to a higher thing. As we see in Bhagavad Gita also. Why do we need chapter 3, Karma Yoga? Why do we need all these things? Why not just Bhakti? Why not just chapter 9? Finished. Bhakti Yoga. Well, you get Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, all these things get mentioned. One is attract people, other people. And of course the systems are there anyway, so we can't just reject them because they're there. But we have to understand their purpose. That they're steps towards bhakti also for people who cannot directly take to bhakti. But ultimately we see at the end Krishna says, give up everything. Give up Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Astanga Yoga, just do Bhakti Yoga. But then he mentions them all in the Bhagavad Gita also.
Maharaj, if the Brahman is spiritual, which means Satchitananda, how is it that the impersonalists, they don't get Ananda if they get Brahman?
Yeah. It is spiritual, but its prominence is Sat, not the Ananda or the Chit. The Chit is there, but Ananda is the minimum. So it's all part of Bhagavan, so it's Satchitananda, but it's prominently the Sat aspect. So in other words, we realize through a certain process, we get a limited realization of the Sat and a maximum realization of the Sat and a minimum realization of the Ananda through Jnana. So it is like we see, example is given, you see the tree in the distance 50 miles away. I mean, you can see something on the horizon, maybe that's about it. So Brahman is the most unclear realization of the Lord. It's a realization, but it is unclearest definition for seeing the tree from 50 miles away. And if we get, 5 feet away, then we understand the tree in detail. We see the bark, we see the little birds on the tree, we can see the insects crawling up the tree, we can see the needles or the leaves or whatever, the color, you can see the roots or whatever. We can see all the details if we're close. So closeness means we do bhakti, we get the close aspect of the Lord. The same Lord, when we see him from 50 miles away, then we see much, much less. So minimum. So what is the minimum? At least he exists. The Lord exists. He's eternal. This is the Brahman aspect of the Lord. Then, when we start seeing all the personal details, that is the Bhagavan aspect. So particular processes give particular results. You do the jnana process, they're not interested in details at all. The most general aspect of the Lord, then they get the general aspect of the Lord. We want to understand personal, then we do personal process, bhakti, and we realize personal aspects of Krishna. What is that? Are everyone, well, yeah. If you're in the spiritual world, everybody is an associate of the Lord. The Lord is such that he can be with everybody. Huh? We're not in the spiritual world. We're in the material world. Oh, you can also, if you have prema. Yes. Yes. If we develop to the high degree of consciousness where we're always absorbed 24 hours a day in Bhagavatam, yes. That's prema level. Huh? If we have prema. If we don't have prema, then we can read Bhagavatam, but we do have an artas also. So those acts and obstacles, so we cannot directly or personally associate with the Lord. But if we continue, eventually we get rid of the anartas and we end up with prema, then we become direct associates of the Lord, even if we have a so-called material body.
So is there any difference in material world and spiritual world? Only the gopis and radhas are not available here, but this personal association?
There's a difference. The difference is that as long as we have a material body, the extent of prema is somewhat limited. And certain higher aspects like sneha, pranaya, man, anuraga, etc. can only be experienced beyond a material body. That is the difference.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
I think you have one question. Then we'll finish.
Okay. You gave the wonderful pastime of Krishna eating the mud and the Shaktis acting on Krishna's behalf. So how do the Shaktis act like that? How do they do that? And can you give some other examples of the
Well, it's
Shaktis
just like
acting?
devotees also. Devotees in the spiritual world, they have their own little bit of free will by which they spontaneously do things for Krishna without Krishna having to ask them to do it. Like Mother Yasoda, spontaneously she will cook something for Krishna, or Rohini will cook something for Krishna, and it doesn't have to be Krishna makes them cook it or anything like that. So we can say the Shaktis themselves are like persons, and they're enthusiastic to serve the Lord in different ways. So very cleverly they arrange everything like this for him without the Lord having to think about it or ask it. Of course, there is internal energy, so actually they're part of him in one sense, but yet they can act as if independently. Okay, Hare Krishna.